not muzzle the ox muzzle the mouth of the ox that treadeth out the corn. Doth God take care for oxen? Or saith he it altogether for our sakes? For our sakes, no doubt, this is written, that he that ploweth should plow in hope, and that he that thresheth in hope should be partaker of his hope. For we have sown unto you spiritual things. Is it a great thing if we shall reap your carnal things? If others be partakers of this power over you, are not we rather? Nevertheless, we have not used this power, but suffer all things, lest we should hinder the gospel of Christ. Do you not know that they which minister about holy things live of the things of the temple, and they which wait at the altar are partakers with the altar? Even so hath the Lord ordained that they which preach the gospel should live of the gospel. But I have used none of these things, neither have I written these things, that it should be so done unto me. For it were better for me to die than that any man should make my glorying void. For though I preach the gospel, I have nothing to glory of, for necessity is laid upon me. Yea, woe unto me, if I preach not the gospel. For if I do this thing willingly, I have a reward. But if against my will, a dispensation of the gospel is committed unto me. Let me read 18. What is my reward then? Verily, that when I preach the gospel, I may make the gospel of Christ without charge, that I abuse not my power in the gospel. Thus is the reading of God's most holy word. And so I want to talk tonight about meeting the demands of ministry. And I mean, let me just say this, not only meeting the demands of ministry, but meeting the demands of life, meeting the demands of marriage, meeting the demands of brotherhood, meeting demands of co-workers or working with people, meeting the demands of living with people, meeting the demands of going to church with people. All of that fits within the context of what Paul writes about to his letter to the church at Corinth. And again, you have to understand the background of who the church of Corinth is, so that you'll understand why Paul is so adamant about getting clarity. So I want you to write that down as the key word for tonight's lesson. Not only are we meeting the demands of life, ministry, and all these other things, we have to have clarity. I want to know why you keep coming back to this church. I want to know why you keep calling me. I want to know, because that will determine how I respond to you, or whether or not what I choose to do is the right thing to do. That makes sense? Because I choose to teach a lesson, but if you're going to always be argumentative, if you're going to always be opposing, why are you here? Why am I teaching the lesson if you don't want to learn? That makes sense? And so Paul is going to confront these Corinthian Christians about not only some of the decisions that they're making, but some of the things that they've what's the word I want to use? Adapted as part of their life, their lifestyles, in order for them to be registered. I use the word registered or classified as believers. So the church can be identified as a company of believers gathering together, right, for the purpose of worship. And we've learned in our own experience that anybody can gather, anybody can worship. It may not be authentic, it may not be true worship, but anybody can worship. And when you look at this particular case, idolatry is very big in Corinth. And because idolatry is very big, paganism is very big. So when you talk about gods and worship, if you're not very clear, you could be talking about anything. So Paul has to be clear. He's got to get a confirmation, because up until this point, they have been used to paganism. They've been used to worshiping other gods. In fact, that's how Paul got engaged when he came into the temple, and the temple had all of these altars that were set up for all of the gods that they worship. And at the end of the row was the altar that said to the unknown God. And that's the God that he chose to use. That's the altar that he chose to use as Yahweh, as Elohim. So it's easy for me to talk through this because I've read enough about the church at Corinth and I've understood enough about their behavior to try to make sense of what we deal with on a daily basis. But the question for tonight is, what side of the aisle are you on? So Paul identifies that there are two sides to this. Either you are the person teaching or you are the student being taught. Either you are the person ministering or you're the person being ministered to. Either you're the person that's a part of the congregation or you're a person that is contentious against the congregation. But what he's saying is whatever side of it that you're on, none of what people do should hinder the work of the ministry. That makes sense? I shouldn't stop doing what I do because me and Teresa don't agree, right? I shouldn't stop preaching because Elder Lloyd Sand don't like my style of preaching. I can't be moved by people's response to what I'm doing. In fact, Paul says, not only should I not be moved, I should look for evidence or outcomes as to what effect what I'm doing is having on that person or that place or these people. So a great example of that is I don't know if it's a great example, but it's a reality. A lot of pastors today measure the success of their ministry by the number of people they have in the pews. That's a terrible thing, because if I'm measuring my ministry by the number of people that are in the pews or in the chairs, I'm going to always feel inadequate. I'm going to always feel whatever it was a negative word. Feel some kind of way. Let me just use that. I'm always feel some kind of way because every week is somebody different. And there are more empty chairs sometimes than full, right? But what the Bible will teach us, and I don't know if that's Bible, what theologians have declared is your true membership, and I've been teaching this now for 21 years. Your true membership is not who you see on Sunday. Your true membership is who you see at Bible study. Because those are the people that are under your teaching. Those are the people that are following you because they're following your teaching. So when a teacher is asked how many students do they have, it's not based on how many chairs are in the room. It's how many students in the class. So if I got 42 chairs in the room, but I only got 6 students, how many students do I have? 6. Because those are the ones that are following my lesson. They are the part of my teaching. Those are the ones that are recipients of my teaching. So if I got a good one, how many kids do you have? I've heard people say this all the time. Well, I got my own, and then I got those that visit my house, or those that are always at my house. They're not your kids. They are moochers. Your kids are the ones that you either had or adopted, but are in your care, right? So don't tell me about all the moochers. Just tell me about the ones that you parent, because that will determine how much you're putting out. You got 10 kids at your house, but you're only putting out for 3 because those are your own. You're not putting out for those other 7. And you can't claim them as part of the benefactors of your work because they're not always there. That makes sense? All right, so let's break it down real quick. And again, this is not a monologue. This is an exchange. It's a discussion. The difficulties of ministry. So what are some of the challenges that you all face in life when you are engaged or involved with people, right? Teresa works in a school. She has to pray every day that she don't beat other people's kids up. So we pray for her in that regard, so that because they will take her there, but because she's trained and disciplined, she does not react to their behavior, right? There's no cases yet. Okay, well, no cases yet. Ain't nobody running in right now to come and get her. Elder Lessan is involved with the community every day. And she engages with the community. There are people who embrace her. There are people who tell her, get away from me. There are people who say, pray for me. There are people who say, I don't want you touching me. So it's a whole lot that goes on. So, but it doesn't stop her from going out into the community. So I appreciate that because my ministry may be different from yours. My encounters may be different from yours. My experiences are different from yours. But at the end of the day, the question is, how are you feeling about what you are doing? That's what you got to ask yourself, because that's what's going to determine whether I continue to go or not. And it's definitely going to determine how I grow. Because if everything about my parenting is negative, I'm going to question my skill set, my skills for parenting, and I could easily shut down and stop parenting. And I know this because I see people all the time that have stopped parenting because of the behaviors of their children. And I can't let my children's behavior dictate how I parent. Yes, there are going to be contentious moments. Yes, we're going to have some run-ins. We maybe have some knockdown, drag-out brawls. But at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, guess what? I'm still daddy. And I got to maintain that no matter what. At the end of the day, I'm Pastor Ennis Tate, and I got to maintain that no matter how y'all show up or not. If I'm preaching to myself, which I can do, I'm still Pastor Tate. It doesn't change. And until you get to that level of confidence, I don't use this word confidence, in addition to confidence, until you get to that level of understanding, your life could be a roller coaster. And that's when James 1, I think it's James 1:8 says, a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. Right? Sister Coco.
I have a challenge with I got really good discernment with people, but my biggest challenge is telling people they full of crap without being nasty or nothing. Like I have a hard time with that, and like still being associated with them kind of people that kind of, because I feel like I'm obligated to help lead them like do right and act right or whatever, but then they still feeding me poop. And I have I'm real challenged in that area with I don't know, telling them something in a nice way.
Well, part of that's because you have your smile. Your smile is too pretty. Sometimes you need to just show them don't smile. Don't smile at people, because the moment you smile, they assume that that's your weakness, and they take your politeness and your, I can tell you what they have. They take your politeness and your concern and care as a weakness. So they take advantage of that, or they think they can get over on it. I know what's going on, because that happens to me on a daily basis. And I have to show them that I have grit and grace. I will show you grace until you start getting me to the point where I got to show you grit. And when I show you grit, it is not going to be as soft as the grace. That makes sense? Because I had a guy tell me one day, next time he came, I better have his money. And right then, my eyes did like an avatar. And I told him that if you talk to me like that again, I'm not gonna only kill you, I'm gonna cut you up. And we've been friends ever since. So I don't go there with me. But then he saw me with a collar on. He thought he could what's the word I want to use? He thought he could bully me. He thought he could bully me because I'm pastor, I'm nice. Oh, I'm so glad you're here. Stop. And we ain't had no problem since then. But he had to see that side of me. And I'm not saying that was right. I'm just saying that comes with the territory. And that's what we're talking about tonight. We got to talk about the fact that there are challenges when it comes to dealing with people. And there are challenges when it comes to dealing with systems, both of which are part of our society. And we're not excluded from that. We are in the thick of things. So, Mother Johnny.
I have a challenge with nursing,
With
not with the care, but with the family members.
Oh, okay.
Especially when they come in and try to tell you what to do, and it don't work. And I'm already on the right path. So I have when I know what I know, you can't interfere. When I know what I know.
So you must have read 1 Corinthians 9 already, because what you're saying is what Paul is exactly what Mother is saying is when I know what I know. Paul says that this don't make sense. This don't make sense. And Paul's his assessment of the situation is important. And we all should take an opportunity to make these assessments. If I'm going to be a teacher, right, I got at some point see evidence that my teaching is effective. And it's going to be done through what? Tests, right? If all my students fail, after 6 months of teaching, they all fail the test. When the principal comes in the room, she's not going to look at the students. They're going to look at the teacher. If they all fail. Now, if 2 fail, everybody else passed, I can say I did a good job. But if everybody failed, and it doesn't mean I'm a bad teacher, it just means that I need to evaluate the method in which I teach. Because 6 months is too long before we have a test, right? And we did that in school, in college rather. We would get a couple of tests a semester. Well, heck, I failed them tests because I can't remember what you started in September. Here we are in freaking November. You want me to remember what you said in September? I didn't take no notes. No. So I'm cheating on people's tests. So it causes you to behave, right? When you feel threatened or when you feel some kind of way, it causes you to go into a whole different mindset. And people do this when they got their backs against the wall, they come out fighting. And they don't come out praying, they come out fighting because now I feel like I got to defend myself. So what Paul is doing is teaching us that you got to be committed to your work. No matter what, you have got to be committed to the ministry that God has called you to. Don't pick a ministry, right? Don't pull a card and say, I'm going to do this. Don't pull straws. Do the ministry that God has called you to do. Vocation, wherewith. I got to get, I got to have the right references. So it's recorded in 2 Timothy 4 and 5. 2 Timothy 4 and 5 is one reference. It says, but watch thou in all things, endure afflictions, do the work of an evangelist, make full proof of your ministry. That make sense? What am I making full proof of? So I then have to ask myself, what is my ministry? And let me help everybody in here understand, we all have a ministry. And ministry is not what we think it is. Let me go to Romans real quick. I think it's the 12th chapter. Let me get in there. Y'all making me work tonight, baby. Ooh-wee. It might be the 12th chapter or the 13th chapter, but I want you to read this real quick. Here it is. In Romans, the 12th chapter, here's what it says in verses number 3 through 9. Maybe 10. Let me read it for you. For I say, through the grace given to me, to every man that is among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think soberly according as God have dealt to every man the measure of faith. So what does that mean? My faith and my thinking have to be in alignment. I can't think that I'm better than you and my faith is not at that level. Because if my faith is at that level, then I won't think that I'm better than you. That makes sense? So here's what he says in verse number 4. For as we have many members in one body, and all members have not the same office. The word office here in the Greek is function, right? So that's letting us know that ministry is a function. It's what I do, right? And so here's what he says in verse number 5. So we being many are one body in Christ, and every one members one of another, having their gifts differing according to the grace that is given to us, whether prophecy, let us do what? Let us prophesy according to the proportion of faith. Don't tell me what God told you to tell me if you don't believe. That's what he's saying. Now, if I'm going to prophesy, I got to prophesy to the level of faith that I have. Because I got to believe exactly what I'm telling you myself. Let me go on a little further. 6, it says, having their gifts differing of the prophesy. 7, of ministry, let us wait on our ministering, or he that teacheth on teaching. Why does he tell them to wait? Because we need to grow into it. I can't wake up tomorrow morning and say, I'm going to be a pastor, and I haven't done anything to prepare to be a pastor. I haven't heard from God. I haven't heard from the bishop. I ain't heard from nobody. I'm just going to be a pastor. I'm going to start my own church. Now, I don't know if anybody knows what it's like to start a church, but it's the same as you starting a business. It's the same as starting a career. Nobody starts out their career as the CEO unless they own the business. So if I don't own the business and I'm coming into McDonald's talking about, I'm coming in, I'm gonna be the manager tomorrow, and I ain't never been on the French fry line, I ain't never flipped a hamburger, I ain't done nothing but just walk in and say, I'm the new manager. If they didn't hire me as the manager, what gives me the right to declare it? And then I'm gonna say, well, the Lord told me I'm the new manager. No, the Lord might have told you that, but he tell you got to go through the training first. Right? You understand what I'm saying? Okay. Because I'm having a hard time helping people to understand that we live in this world and this world may not always be favorable toward us, but we still got to be the children of God. We still got to be the body of Christ. So when we get mad with these systems that we're a part of, it's not for us to just contend with the system. God put us in place to help change the system. That makes sense? So it is with think about the controversy right now in the United States is taxes. Everybody is talking about it. That one person or one group says they're going to raise taxes, and other group says they're going to cut taxes. Right? Here's the philosophy, or here's the dichotomy here. The people that are going to raise taxes wants to raise taxes on those who make the most money. The people who are going to cut taxes say they're going to cut taxes for the people that make the most money. So who gets left out? The middle class. So we bear the burden of everybody. But why is it that I pay more taxes than Warren Buffett, who is the third richest man in the world, and I pay more taxes than him? Because he's got tax loopholes and he's got what they call tax shelters that he can find, or he puts all of his money in a trust that belongs to a trust and not to him. So all of his wealth is based on something else other than going to work every day. See what I'm saying? And when they show his biography, or no, his documentary where he rides to work in an old car, right? And he stops by McDonald's every morning to get a sausage biscuit and a cup of coffee. And you at $100 billion work. Now, you know, that was one of us that we'd be at the chateau and Pierre would be bringing us our breakfast and we would be flying caviar in from the Gulf. That's just how it is. But it's a mindset. So Paul is teaching us here that if we're going to be impactful, we've got to know who it is that we're working with. I got to know enough about them to know what I should see at this point in their life, at this stage in the relationship. That make sense? All right. So let me pick on some people on the screen. So how many of you have taken a few moments in the last 6 months to take an assessment of your life? Anybody raise your hand? Take an assessment of where you are. Whose hand is that? I can't see that far. Oh, that's Coco. That's your hand, Coco? That's Coco's hand? Oh, Coco, you got 8 fingers on that one hand? What is going on? All right. And so Mother Johnny's raised her hand. So you've done an assessment of your life. Now, I'm going to say this. Now, only 2 people raised their hand. What the rest of y'all doing? Y'all just living? Do I need to call some people out? Faith, close out the Zoom. They're not participating. I'm just going to talk to the people in the class. And so, because I need for you to understand that if you don't take an assessment of your life, then you really don't know how much of ministry you're doing. Because my life is my ministry. And if I'm not taking an assessment of my life, then there's no way that I can understand where I am in ministry. Okay.
Most of them, I do them take on Sundays.
Okay.
Take that during the week.
Okay.
The people I deal with. I mean, I think about all the time. I'm here to do with me.
It's on.
So I'm here to help men, because usually I'm the biggest one in the group, and I can be the meekest one in the group.
Okay.
So it helps build camaraderie.
So you understand. So we got to understand what it is that we're doing. So when Paul talks about this whole idea of the demands of ministry, that means that every day I've got to be intentional, my friends. I got to know exactly what I'm doing. And for me right now, at this stage in my life, I feel overwhelmed because I'm doing so much. And I ran into a brother today I wasn't hurt by what he said. I wasn't even bothered by what he said, but the fact that he said it, it just kind of, you know, he said, people tell me all the time, Pastor Tate ain't doing nothing. And my eyes did like this. And I said, okay, I don't worry about what people say. But when you say Pastor Tate ain't doing nothing, I'm like, well, that's a blow. You know, I ain't doing nothing. So maybe, but I had to understand, I may not be doing anything in their eyes, right? Because when I do what I do, it may not even be where they are. So I had to learn that a long time ago, that I don't care what people say about what I do or don't do, because they don't live in my world.
Right.
But we all live in the world. But if you're in your office and I'm out there, then yeah, it don't look like I'm doing anything because you're in the office and I'm out there. Does that make sense? But you got to know that. I had to know that. I had to learn that. So when they say that, I don't care. But he said, well, I defended you. You ain't got to defend me. Now, if you choose to, but that's your, but I ain't got to be defended because I'm not trying to defend nothing to nobody because I don't answer to nobody. I answer to H-I-M, capital H, capital I, capital M, him. Does that make sense? All right.
Pastor, I take an assessment of my life daily. In the morning, when I get up, and in my process of getting ready for work, I always have a plan on what I have to do each day. What activities, assignments, that I have to have for my classes. Do I need to modify? And really, I'm doing a lot more than what I should be doing for my position title and the pay. I'm actually doing teacher work. I just don't do grade. I really do curriculum because I make sure that all of the activities are set up for that grade level, that age level, and what they are doing. But then if I know there are children in there with special needs, whether it's emotional or academic, I make sure that I modify that work for them. But then at the end of the day, I take another assessment of how my day went. You know, how many children were receptive of what I did. How many kids came over and said, hey, Miss Library Lady. After now, 8-10 weeks of still just Miss Library Lady to the little one. And I'm like, I'm Mrs. Worthing. But you know what they say, I love the story. I learned so much. I like this. I did that. Or, you know, or can we check out books? And just their interest in what's going on in the library. See, a lot of people think that the library is just a room with a whole bunch of books and a holding place for kids. That's not how I set mine up. If they're going to be in there for 40 minutes, they're going to do something that's going to bring interest to reading. I actually had a student, an older student, 6th grade student on Tuesday, asked me, do you like being a librarian? I was like, yes, I like being a librarian. Why, you like to read? I said, yes, I love to read. So do you know why we're so bad in class? I said, I assume because you all don't want to follow rules and regulations. I said that are set before you because you all want to do what you want to do. And I said, but you tell me, you're the student. You tell me why you all are acting up in class. Well, it's because you always tell us to be quiet. I said, it's the library. It's supposed to be quiet. I said, but I do give you days where you all are interactive with each other. I said, but there are days where you all have to learn to sit quietly. Because there's going to be a time in your life where you're going to go someplace, whether it's a library, whether it's a church, whether it's a hospital, whether it's a higher place of academia. I said that you're going to have to learn to sit and be quiet. I said, so this is kind of your early part of your training of how to successfully do what you need to do in a certain environment. So I take an assessment twice a day.
Wow.
AM and PM.
I got a bid day upset. Okay. Coco, thank you, sis.
I just want to say I take assessment a lot because I feel like I have to see where I'm at, see what I need to adjust, move out the way, and where I need to improve. So I take assessment of me and people around me a lot.
You take an assessment of them too, Coco, or they take their own assessment? Hey,
I take-
come here, let me show you something. And so I understand because when you're interacting with people, listen to me well, when you're interacting with people, it's important for you to know where you stand with God. And I say that because we can easily conform to this world, which is why Paul writes in Romans 12, be ye transformed, be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind so that you can prove what is that good, perfect, and acceptable will of God. So when you read 1 Corinthians, the 9th chapter, you're going to get a gist of what Paul is feeling. Mother Johnny.
My assessment, Pastor, is when I get to my job, I pray for covering and direction because every day is different. Every day, the need is different. The cause is different.
So that's a great assessment. Every day is different. And it can't be blanket the same way every day because every day is different. And if you don't adjust to the difference, then you may find yourself, right, at a standstill or in a battle. And that's what Paul is talking about. So let's think about this for a minute. Look at Paul, what he says here. And I want you to see that Paul brings us up to speed with where he is in his efforts to assist the Corinthians, the church at Corinth. He has to assist them because they have a misunderstanding of what being in relationship with God is, being a worshiper of God, the true and living God. They have a misunderstanding. So how many people do you know, and I'm not telling you to judge them, but seemingly they have a misunderstanding of what life is all about. They're young people have a misunderstanding of what life is all about. And so to help young people every day, you have to be rooted and grounded in something. And it has to be spiritual. Because right now, to go there with them means that your whole being is being tested. Because they can get to the core of your being with their behaviors. And I've seen that happen, which to Sister Coco's point, if I'm working with people and I got to figure out how to work with them without losing my way. Same thing with Mother Johnny. The family is coming in telling me how to do the job that they hired me for. And why did you hire me if you want to do all of the work or tell me how to do it? I've got 40 years experience. Obviously I know how to do the work. So my resume says I know how to do the work. So trust, as Paul is saying here, trust me that what I'm doing now is something that I know how to do. And I want to help you. That's what qualifies me to help you. Mother Johnny. Okay. So what Paul is doing is Paul points out the need for is great for spiritual nourishment.
Hey, bro, Pastor.
Spiritual nourishment. Yes, ma'am.
It wasn't me. It was Mia on my line. Somebody just muted her. She wanted to say something.
Okay.
I just want to kind of brief. Hello, everybody. I just want to kind of make a brief comment in reference to assessment because I take that very serious in my life. Because when you talk about assessment, you look at all aspects of your life. You look at God, your relationship with God. You look at yourself. You look at others that, like Coco had mentioned, with people that you have to deal with day in, day out, work, family, kids. You know, your day in, day out work. You know, tasks that you have to do every day. So I'm a person that writes stuff down, and I have a planner that I use, and I have a to-do list of things that I need to do in all aspects of my life, whether it's weight management, whether it's being aware, self-aware, you know, all of that. So when I know that I hear people talk about every week, every day, you know, and it's individuals based on the individual, how they want to do that. But I look at it at a holistic perspective, month to month, quarter to quarter, year to year, to see, you know, what's moving, because you have a lot of moving parts in life. that you have to like keep, like Coco had mentioned, that sometimes you have to see what works, what doesn't work, what needs improvement, what you need to stop doing, what you need to start doing. Give yourself goals and milestones. So I personally like assessments to reassess, because sometimes you may try something in a certain situation and you have to you come up with your plan. Things don't always go the way you expected. You have to reassess it and reevaluate it and figure out what's next, what to do.
Yeah, that's good.
So it kind of controls my life because
Well, that's
I'm a
good. I mean,
thinker.
but that's what Paul calls that discipline. So everybody's got that level of discipline. So for me, I have to assess my life every day. I have to every day because to Johnny's point, my day is different every day. There's not one day is the same. And I come in contact with different people on different levels every day. And when I'm by myself is mainly the time that I assess my family. Where are them kids? Where is Cherie? What is she doing now? And I'm gonna do and some mornings I wake up, what do I need to do to help Cherie with this? So that's priority in my day. Before I leave the house, because if I leave the house, it's gonna be hard for me to come back to it. So nowadays, in this stage in my life, I do it before I leave the house. So if she needs 2, 3 things done, I want to do those 2 or 3 things. Get them done, get them out of the way. Then when I leave, she don't have to worry about it. She can do something else because she got 6 things on her list. But if I got to leave early, then I got to make a commitment when I come home, I got to do those things. Typically, by the time I get home, I ain't doing nothing. So if she gonna leave me, go ahead and leave me there because I ain't doing it. Because I've bored so much the whole day that I cannot fathom having to do anything else. Does that make sense? And so we're at stages. We're at stages in life, right? When we first started out with me, Cherie, and Christiana, right? Easy day. Christiana cried all day. We worked. That was just it. As she got older, Ennis came along. Then Minty, then Titi, now Tristan, now Kai. So all of these stages over the past 30 years, our lives have changed. So when she says we need to take more time for each other, and we talk about this, Mia, at the retreat, we need to take more time for each other. Who has that kind of time? But the understanding was you have to make time. Because if you don't, you can be busy all the time. So for the last 5 months, we've eaten out more in the last 5 months than we've done in an entire 2 years. Because our time is so, what is it? Gone. Right? Well, I'm going to eat. I ain't got to eat. I'm going to eat. And so, but think about that. How much money we spent in the last 5 months, right? Because our time, our lives have changed. And we didn't take time to adjust. Does that make sense? So now I got these things over here that's due because I could have paid them, but I had to eat out. That makes sense? Now I'm mad over here, but I'm full over here. You see what I'm saying? That's all a part of ministry, though. It's all a part of ministry. And that's why I say the assessments are critical to what you do in life. So I stopped looking at people and I started looking at people's growth, spiritual growth, because that helps me to help them. But I had to learn how to develop the courage to be able to tell them that they need to grow, right? It's easy to tell people, well, that's life, but no, you got to make some changes. And if you don't make some changes, it's not going to get better. You know, like a doctor, if you don't change something, it ain't going to get better. It's going to get worse. Doctors have to build up to that. My new doctors that don't know me, they're not going to say that to me. But this one I've been with for the last 12 years, right out, he come right out. Whatever, that ain't going to work. And he don't care that I'm pastor, bishop, nothing. It ain't going to work. And that's what we tell you, you got to make these adjustments to your life.
It's training.
It's his training and the relationship. So Paul is teaching us today about what kind of relationship do you have with the people to which you are doing ministry, right? Easy Church 101. I don't treat a new member the same way that I treat somebody who's been here 10 years. And everybody, you can tell the difference. You're tender with the younger sheep. The sheep that have been here, get the rod and beat the, I'm sorry. So you gotta adjust based on the relationship that you develop with the place and the people. Does that make sense? And so what Paul is helping us to do tonight is understand about, again, that we've got to monitor. And I want you to put that word down. You've got to monitor and you've got to manage. You've got to monitor your ministry. You've got to manage your ministry. You've got to monitor your life. You've got to manage your life. You've got to monitor your business. You've got to manage your business. You've got to monitor your career. You've got to manage your career. You've got to monitor your relationships. You've got to manage your relationships. And that leads to maintaining. Monitor and manage leads to maintaining.
You have it written down, what you just went through?
Every one of them.
Okay, can you give it to me again?
Monitor,
A minute.
manage equals maintain. Because I have to.
Question,
And
Bishop.
this is what I've learned over life, ma'am.
I got a quick question. At what point, like, say you monitor, managing, and maintaining yourself, but then you trying to get, like, I forget who said it about, kids that are lost or whatnot. It's not just kids, it's adults. Cause me personally, I've been trying for years and years, and I won't give up. Like, I'm just be blunt. I'm trying to get my sisters on track because I'm monitoring and managing myself, and then they coming to me with their stuff, but I'm telling them, like, God, get God in your life, do this, do that. But they're not soaking that in to manage their life accordingly to what God has for them. So it's like, at what point, what do you do then?
It's easier now for me to say it than it was 5 or 6 years ago, Sister Coco. I cannot speak for them. That's why you're there, to be an inspiration and to be an encouragement. But we cannot force anybody to do anything. Let me read Acts, and I think it's in Acts 18. I looked it up just because as soon as you started saying it, it came to me. What Paul said to, again, the church at Corinth. So I want you to hear this. He says it in chapter Acts 18. Let me see if this is it. Yeah, here it is. Paul says, I'm going to read 4, 5, and 6. And he reasoned in the synagogues every Sabbath, persuaded the Jews and the Greeks. What does the word persuade mean? Anybody, real quick? Convince, influence.
Wait.
Sorry. So think about that for a minute. Every day he's every Sabbath, which is the one day a week, he's there to persuade them to believe in Christ, to follow Christ. He's teaching them the same thing. Watch verse number 5. And when Silas and Timothy were come from Macedonia, Paul was pressed in the spirit and testified to the Jews that Jesus was Christ. What does the word press mean? What do you think it means? He was pressed. He was compelled to say more about who? About Jesus Christ. Not about himself, not about his afflictions, not about what he's going through. Here's what I want us to hear, because it's not about us. When God has given us a responsibility to minister to people, we have got to learn that it's all about Christ. And it's hard to keep Christ central and center when we haven't learned how to monitor, to manage, and maintain. Because the moment I drop the ball on any one of those things, whatever I'm dealing with at that time makes it about me. And that's when I lose focus. And that's the hard part about ministry, that it's not about me, it's about Christ. But he ain't here. He don't know what I'm going through. He don't know what I'm dealing with. Yes, he does. Because the Bible says we have not a high priest that does not know what we go through on a daily basis. That's the critical assessment, that when we talk about following Christ, Christ knows all and sees all. So when people say, well, he don't know what I'm going through, how can you say that? His whole being, his whole existence was knowing what we go through. So that when he offers a recommendation, suggestion, or standard, that it's based on what he knows about us. That's why he can say, I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me, because now Paul has that relationship with him. What is your relationship with Christ? What's your relationship with God? Because if it's not growing, if it's not prospering, if it's not fruitful, then it's going to be hard for you to fathom that God has anything to do with your life. Because you're going to think it's everything that you do. So let me finish these last verses in verse number 18, because I want you to hear this. Verse number 6 says, and when they opposed themselves and blasphemed, he shook his raiment, it's talking about Paul, and said unto them, your blood be upon your own heads. I am clean. From henceforth I will go to the Gentiles. In other words, if y'all don't want to be bothered with me, I'm cool with that. I'm gone. That's what happened. The Holy Spirit moved Paul away from the Jews and sent him to the Gentiles. Coco, if they don't want to hear you, after a while, tell them I love y'all. See you. I got to go and help somebody that wants to be helped. And it's hard to do that. It really is, because you love people. I love my family. I love folks. But if you don't want to do right, come on, bruh. I can't spend the rest of my life saying the same thing to you every week. Somebody else needs to hear it. And it may be somebody else's ministry to come and minister to you. I might not be able to minister to you because we're too close. So now my responsibility is to get you to somewhere where somebody can get through to you. So that's my assignment. So what I tell people all the time, I tell my kids, if somebody else can get to you all better than I can, you go and be a part of their church. You ain't got to be a part of daddy's church. If some other pastor can preach and you can hear, go be that pastor. Go be under that pastor. I am cool with that. Some people are like, no, you can't leave your daddy. Man, get up out of here. If somebody's going to teach you because you're going to live right, go wherever they are. I would rather you be there and saved than to be here and sad. That makes sense? Yeah, because I know I'm not the only preacher. I'm not the only person that can scramble eggs. I don't eat nobody else's eggs. Who eggs you eat? I don't eat my mama eggs. Man, you're a fool. Because when you're out of town, what you going to do? I better learn how to eat some other people's eggs. And that I ain't going to do. I ain't going to start. Or change my diet. You understand? I got to make some adjustments to accommodate my decision. And that's what I'm talking about tonight. Paul is teaching us, I can't live it. You got to know them kids. He don't even care about teaching Bible study. You know what he's going to tell me? Oh, I forgot you was teaching Bible study. He can call 3 times. He don't care. And so it's because you got to know, my friends, what God has put you to do. God has put you here for a reason. And you got to be clear what that reason is. And that's what you're supposed to do every day. That's whatever your gift is, that's what Romans 12 said, whatever your gift is, that's what you should be doing. If teaching is your gift, then you should be teaching. If ministry is your gift, then you should be doing ministry. A lot of people don't know what their ministries are, and they don't know what their gifts are. So if I don't know my ministry and my gift, then what am I doing every day? What am I doing? So Paul talks about this whole idea of helping people to become spiritually nourished. And his assignment is to do what? Preach. What does it say Paul is doing? Preaching. When we read Acts 18, what does it say he was doing every Sabbath day? Preaching. Preaching and teaching. Every letter that he writes, every epistle that he pens is about him preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ. That's what his ministry is. That's what he's called to do. That's what God has commissioned him to do. He just said it. Go and preach to the Gentiles. And in fact, that as Paul was passing by, and there was a man at Macedonia standing at the gate and realized that Paul was passing by and said, hey, come over here and help us. If they don't want you, we do. If McDonald's don't want you, go to Wendy's. If Wendy's don't want you, go to Chipotle. I don't care, but don't sit at home and be sad and say, I don't have nothing else to do. Somebody else wants you. And go where they are. Right? I just need y'all to understand that. All right. How much time I got left, Paige? Oh God, I'm already done. Got 4 minutes. Let me close this out. None of the people, take note and attendance page, none of the people on the video today said anything, but Coco and Mother Johnny and Sister Mia. Everybody else is fired. All right. So we got to understand that I've got to learn how to apply these things. So Paul says, so if I'm going to operate in this manner, here's what I got to do. I've got to have insight. I've got to have insight. Here, write that down. I got to have insight. What do I know and what don't I know? Right? So I love cooking. I really do. I don't have enough time to do it, but I love it. And so every now and then I just watch a lot of recipes. And there are a lot of recipes I do want to make. So I get insight. How did the chef do this? How did they do that? How did they prepare their barbecue ribs before they barbecue? What seasoning did they use? How long did it marinate? I get my information. So when I get ready to apply it, right, I got insight. So we say, you're doing something new? She already know I'm doing something new because I got new ingredients on the counter. She already knows it. Here it goes. But because I've studied it, now I need to know how to apply it. That makes sense? All right, so you got to have insight. The next thing you got to do is if you're gonna be effective, you got to have influence. You got to have influence. Insight is what gives you an opportunity to gain influence. What is that? What is the old saying? People don't care how much you know until they know how much you
Care.
And my insight tells me how much I need to do because now I've done an assessment. One of the big things that Paul is teaching us here tonight is that most people don't realize that the reason why they can't help people is because they're not interested. Not only is the person not interested,
You're not interested.
you're not interested. So if you're going to be impactful, you got to have interest in what you're doing and who you're ministering to and where you are. People can't say nothing to me about Avondale. Why are you there? Because that's where God put me. That's all I got. But my training was that before you go to a city, you read as much as you need to read about that city. So before I came to Cincinnati, I didn't have the opportunity because it was all of a sudden. But before I moved to St. Louis, I read the USA Today, the Wall Street Journal, and the St. Louis Dispatch before I moved to St. Louis, so that I could learn everything about the business, about the market, and about the place. So when I got there, it wasn't new to me because I had been keeping up with it. Does that make sense? Same thing here. When I moved here, the Business Journal tells me what's going on in business, and the Inquirer, that paper, and just this community newspapers. What's going on where I am? Because if I'm going to help, I got to be interested in it. If I'm not interested, how can I be effective? All right? So, and most of all, out of all that I said, the most important thing you got to have is information. You're going to be effective, you got to have information. Who am I helping? What are the needs? Where are the needs? Got to have information. So Paul is saying here in this text, he's teaching us that in order for me to really make a true assessment of the situation, all of these four things are critical for me to have. That's why he mentions the law, right? You hear him mention the law of Moses, because I need for you all to understand that there's some similarities in what you are doing and the old law. And that's what it is. Mother D, thank you.
With that being said, I didn't realize when I was younger, and I had girlfriends that had young daughters and everything, I didn't realize how much attention they were paying to what I was doing, how I was living my life, because now they're grown. I have more nieces than I really actually have, because I only have one brother that had one daughter. That's truly my niece. But then the little girls that were small watching me as they were growing up consider me as being an aunt to them now. I have a bunch of nieces that they call me auntie. And I was really throw back on that because I never knew that they were paying attention that much to what I was doing in my life, to whereas they respect me enough to call me auntie. And with that being said, I was thinking about, as you was talking, I've always been a person that sit back and observe people before I let them into my world. And once I let them in there for a brief moment, because that's all I'm gonna let them be in there for a brief moment, because then they show their real hand. Because if you wait long enough, people will show you who they are without telling you. They will show you who they are. So people are only in my life for a brief moment because they really show me who they are after they think they know who I am. So this was a good lesson to me. And the reason I didn't clock in earlier, because I'm doing my cutting up my stuff for my Thanksgiving. I just start early. So I was cutting up, preparing my stuff for Thanksgiving because all of these nieces I have want me to cook them food. So I'm preparing it early. But yeah, that made me think back. And I really feel honored that they look at me and they respect me enough to call me their aunt.
Well, I'm okay with competing with the celery. I'm cool with that. I understand. So keep cutting, because whatever you make it, make sure Pastor get a small portion of it. All right? Let me put my bid in. All right. Mother Johnny, is that a new hand?
I just wanted to say, Pastor, in all we're saying and doing on the Bible studies tonight, I really feel in my heart it is all surrounds with the mindset. How willing are you? It's a mindset to where you want to progress, where you want to ministry in whatever area. It's the mindset.
And I would take it a step further, Mother, and use not only mindset, I'll use strategy. It's a strategy. Paul is the one that said his strategy was, I become all things to all people that I may win some. That's his strategy. So if you need somebody to cry with you, I'm gonna cry with you. If you need somebody to hold your hand, I'm gonna hold your hand. If you need somebody to ride with you, I'm gonna ride with you. Whatever it is, whatever I can do, watch this, to get information, to get insight, to have influence, but to show you how I am interested in your well-being. I gotta spend time with you. Yeah. Huh? Say it again, brother. Okay. So that's it. So after tonight's lesson, I'm expecting you all to walk away from this and take a look at where you are in life, right? Monitor, manage, and maintain your ministry, your life. That's what your ministry is your life. How are you living? How is your life playing out? Who are you helping? Who's helping you? Who's feeding you? Who's feeding on you? All of these things you need to know. Where am I making impact? Who's impacting me? What's influencing my decision making? I'm assessing my life because I need to make sure that I'm in alignment and agreement with the policy. I don't use a policy, the principles of the kingdom. Right? And all throughout the word, it tells us what those principles are. Love, honor, all the things that I'm supposed to be doing. Have healthy conversations with my neighbor. All these things are principles of the kingdom, which make my life better, and it makes it easier for me to be able to pass those principles along. So I don't have to work hard if I do what I'm supposed to do. The Bible says the Holy Spirit will give me what to say and do in that moment. Right? Let's pray. Spirit of the living God, we thank you for the moment. Thank you for the time and privilege that you've given us. I thank you, God, for allowing us to have such a fruitful discussion and such a fiery conversation about how life is, how we do ministry, how we do life, and what the expectations are from you to us. I pray your blessing upon these, your people, as we leave this place, but not your presence. Go with us, God. Let the words of our mouth and the meditation of our heart be acceptable in thy sight. O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. These things we